Heartland Highways is made possible in part by Consolidated Communications, offering customers high-speed internet, phone service, and digital TV service packages that include high-definition channels, DVR, and hundreds of sports, movies, and music channels. More information on these services available at consolidated.com. On this episode of Heartland Highways, we'll preview our entire 8th season, from A to Z.
From the Altamont Opry all the way to a park with a zoo.
That's all coming up next, so don't go away. Welcome to the 8th season of Heartland Highways. I'm Lori Casey.
And I'm Kate Pleasant, and we've got some great adventures in store for you this year. In this show, we'll give you a sneak peek of all the places we've been and the people we've met along the way.
And like we always say, every mile is an adventure, and in this show, we'll preview them all. We'll meet people with talents from sugar art to guitar making and take you to places all over the Midwest like St. Louis, Missouri and Indianapolis, Indiana.
And we put together a couple of theme programs this year, and one that was our favorite to shoot was the car show.
That's right. Viewers might remember our trip last season to Wallace, Indiana and the Highway 341 Cafe. Well, while we were there, cafe owner Tony Schumann told us about a Model T car cruise that comes to town each September, so Kate and I wanted to check it out.
They're like rabbits, they multiply. One's not enough, you know, you need two and then it goes on from there.
It's a disease. I used to have a farming disease, now I got into Model Ts, and it's all Nick's fault, Nick Ellingwood.
Meet cousins Nick Ellingwood and Evan Cork. Both are Wallace, Indiana natives, and both are Model T collectors. It was Nick who first caught the Model T bug back in 1988, which eventually led him to buy an old garage in Wallace for his restoration work.
This building had all fell in. It was a disrepair. I gave $2,500 for the building, and Evan and I worked all summer with his tractor, cleaning all the roofing material out because you couldn't walk from the other, and put the joists up. This was in 1999, and here we go.
While in Wallace, we of course had lunch at the 341 and had some time to catch up with the owners, Tony and Linda Schumann, who were as busy as always.
That's right. From Model Ts to Chevrolet, we headed to Decatur, Illinois, where one man's collection of just about everything Chevy is on display.
I've always been a diehard Chevrolet fan. You know, I grew up, my family always had Chevrolets, and I just, you know, I always liked the Corvette, I always liked the Camaro, I always liked the Chevelle, and of course those are all Chevrolet brands.
Like a lot of car enthusiasts turned collectors, it doesn't stop with just one car, and Lavelle Hunt is no exception. It all started with a '69 Chevelle, and the rest, as they say, is history. After building and outgrowing garages at his home, he had the dream to one day open his own museum here in Decatur. So when a vacant 30,000 square foot grocery store building became available, Lavelle purchased it and fulfilled that dream, called the Chevrolet Hall of Fame Museum. Specializing in Chevy cars and memorabilia, the museum is designed to impress as you step through the door.
I just thought, you know, there's no better way to start it out with the current year Indianapolis 500 pace car.
A big Indy 500 fan, Lavelle's pace car collection is impressive and includes the first Corvette pace car from 1978, as well as the first Camaro pace car from 1967.
One of the most famous roads for cruising is, of course, Route 66, so it's only fitting that Russ and Anita Knoll would put their classic car lot just a stone's throw from the Mother Road.
With about 600 vintage cars and trucks on their lot, this is probably the country's largest vintage car dealership.
We were just going to do like a little mom and pop, you know, just me and the wife was going to work here like, you know, 4 hours a day like we did at home, you know. But right away we figured out, and that's how we hired Tim. He came out looking for a job, and we hired him, and he's been here ever since almost day one. And now we have 4 full-time salesmen, and they do real good, so.
What started with one building grew into several more, each housing a variety of cars and trucks from the 1920s to the 1980s. Vehicles are packed bumper to bumper and feature makes and models like Packard, Hudson, Studebaker, and Dodge, just to name a few.
I kind of like what I call reasonably priced, probably something less than $20,000 that we can sell them for. We have some nicer cars, but my favorite ones are the cheaper, probably $10,000 range. There's a lot more people out there that can afford those, you know.
Now, most of you know that the Heartland Highways vehicle that we drive in the open of the show is a 1954 Ford Crown Victoria. And while we were at Classic Country Cars, they didn't have the exact same one, but they had an equally impressive 1955 that was red and white.
From a show about cars, we switch gears to talk about agriculture. After all, we live in the heart of farm country here in Illinois. But this show is about non-traditional types of farming. At the 200 acres near Arthur, Illinois, they still grow some corn and soybeans, but their crop of choice is cucurbits. If you don't know what that is, take a look.
Cucurbits is a general nomenclature, a general name for all things pumpkins, squash, gourds, melons. In fact, it's one of the largest plant families in the world. There's 114 genera in the Cucurbitaceae family. We grow 3.
But here at the 200 acres near Arthur, Illinois, those 3 genera result in about 400 different varieties that come in just about every shape, size, texture, and color. Call him crazy for cucurbits, but General Manager Matt Condell is absolutely passionate about growing things. He's now the 5th generation to work on this family farm. In the 1980s, the Condell family started growing pumpkins and opened up a seasonal pumpkin patch. After graduating from college, Mac returned to the family farm, eager to expand their crop from the ordinary orange pumpkins to the more unusual and exotic.
So I venture to guess I've grown between 600 and 700 varieties. I have personally seen that many go through. So, and we quite honestly have tasted nearly all of those as well. You get into the taste buds and you can start thinking about all the pumpkin baked goods that the Homestead Bakery makes just across the street. You also can get pumpkin ice cream here, apple cider slushies here. So really all your senses are firing when you walk into the Great Pumpkin Patch, and that's something we pride ourselves on.
This next farm in this show is on the property of the Clark family in rural Herrick, Illinois, and it's pretty unique and more what you might call a lifestyle.
The Clarks do what is called sustainable farming, but they consider it more of going back to their roots and learning to live like their grandparents did. I'll let them explain it a little more.
I think my motto is be good to the earth and it'll be good to you. And it pays back, not necessarily in currency. It's just something I grew up with. It's a family tradition.
The final story in our agriculture show is about a shrimp farm. Believe it or not, we didn't have to travel far to find it, and in fact, it may be one of the furthest north shrimp farms in the United States. Stan Zumballen and his wife Kim live just outside of Newton, Illinois, and farm shrimp out of their ponds on their property. Despite a shorter than traditional growing season, their crops still manage to impress.
Oh, when I started, people thought I was crazy. You know, when I was wanting to do it, and nobody really believed that you could grow shrimp around here. And until about halfway through this first season, and we caught some, and they were pretty nice size.
Over the years on Heartland Highways, we've featured stories related to music. So this year we decided to take it a step further and search for country opries. And we found out there's a number of them going on in many small communities all around us. Talking to viewers, we know that there's many of you out there who like to make your own day trip out of the places that we feature on the show.
So if you're looking for a place to eat, a museum, and a candy shop all within a few miles of one another, this is the show for you.
Not far from Chrisman, Illinois, we discovered the Brown Barn General Store, an out of the way but worth the trip place to eat.
I thought he was crazy because I said, no one's going to come all the way out here for anything. You know, as a general store, you can't compete with other, like the dollar store or Walmart. So I thought, well, if you feed them, they will come, and they do.
Not far from the Brown Barn, we headed over to Dana, Indiana for some chocolate at Brooks Candy Company, where a mother-daughter duo are cooking up delicious sweets.
I looked at like, I'd say 30 different recipes, and then I just fixed it to the way I wanted it. I'd try it, and then I'd try this, and then I'd try that, and I'd change that, and then I'd go to a different temperature. You know, I'd try to make it harder, crunchier. So it took me, what, 6 months before I actually figured out, you know, how I wanted to have it done. And that's how I've done all these recipes. I just make it up in my head.
Just a few blocks away from Brooks Candy Company is the Ernie Pyle State Historic Site. Now, the site houses a museum and a historic home dedicated to the life of World War II journalist Ernie Pyle and his personal style of storytelling.
One of the first things we noticed was the type of buildings the museum is housed in. They're Quonset huts, which are unique structures that were used in World War I and II as movable buildings for the armed forces. But it's not the history of the huts that's so fascinating. It's the story of a hometown hero that was the voice of the war for the people back home.
One of my favorite topics to cover on Heartland Highways is gardening, and this year we had the chance to see some spectacular examples. I'm happy to call Larry Shobe a friend who supplied me with so many plants for my garden that I've lost count. Every time I visit his home in the spring or summer, I seem to come home with something new to plant. What Larry has done with his home garden here in Charleston is pretty amazing. Take a look, and I think you'll agree.
I'm a gardener from the word go, I suppose. I'm a person who likes a lot of color, changing color throughout the season. And to me, I guess variety has always been the name of the game. My style is a little bit more like an English cottage garden, but I do my own thing. And here in Charleston on limited ground, I break all my rules that I ever set in the past for myself.
These next two gardens take us to Indianapolis and St. Louis. They're both what you might consider oases in the city.
The Lily House and Gardens is where the edge of the city of Indianapolis used to be, and it was the home of the Lily family.
Today, it's nestled among the hustle and bustle of the ever-expanding city, although you'd never know it while you're there.
Along the same lines, Forest Park in St. Louis also makes the city seem to disappear.
Home to the 1904 World's Fair, this expansive and historic piece of property covers more area than Central Park in New York City and has plenty to see and do, including golfing, bike riding, going to the zoo, and much, much more.
Green space of this size is unique, not only to St. Louis, but to the large cities, large metropolitan areas throughout the United States. Probably the most renowned green space is Central Park in New York City, which everybody identifies with and hears about. And Forest Park is actually almost double the size of Central Park. So it is unique in its size and in its location.
Viewers might recall our adventures last year of water skiing and rock climbing, and so this year we decided to carry on that tradition and tried something new. So we went fishing and joined the circus for the day.
Well, each one on separate days, of course. But first we took to Lake Shelbyville with a champion fisherwoman that's well known in our area and on the angling circuit. Mary Satterfield has fished hundreds of lakes all over the nation, but says there's no place like her home lake in Shelbyville.
Now, she took Kate and I out on the waters for the day and gave us a shot to fish like a champion, although it didn't work out that way for us.
As predicted by Mary, the fish decided to be camera shy. Of course, the day before we arrived, Mary and her guide clients caught more walleyes than ever before. Oh well, our skilled guide managed to reel in a few bass and walleye. Kate caught a bass, and I caught nothing. Nevertheless, you can't beat the serenity on a lake like this. It has what's known as a green belt around it, which strictly limits building on the lake property.
While we weren't instant experts at fishing, we did a little bit better at the circus.
Just a little. Our next adventure took us to Normal, Illinois to meet up with the folks at the Gamma Phi Circus. Illinois State University's Gamma Phi Circus holds a long, time-honored tradition of performance at the college. And they were nice enough to take some time out to show us their stuff.
That's right. Not only did we get to watch some pretty impressive acts, they let us try one out too. Now, that is not us.
I don't know about you, Lori, but I wouldn't say that we flew through the air with the greatest of ease.
Not exactly, but it was fun. Here's a look at our high-flying trapeze experience and a short interview with Al Light, the circus director.
We have really conscientious students. They really do form a lot of relationships. We challenge them, and I think anytime you take a group of people, a diverse group of people, you put a challenge to them, they're going to come out with some strong relationships. That's one of the biggest things that makes this a really unique organization. These kids are really good friends. They really learn how to respect one another, and I think it's pretty evident in how they work together and the end result at the end of the year.
What certainly makes Heartland Highways such a great program are the people we get to meet along the way, and this season we met quite a few unique talents.
From artisans to dancers, hobbyists, and everything in between, there was no shortage of interesting people.
Buffy Vance, a sugar artist from Urbana, Illinois, is one example. The things she creates are so good you could eat them.
We can't forget another talented woman, Susanna Fairley. Susanna paints on everything from milk cans to hats, but she has recently taken to painting on feathers. Her creations are so intricate and stunning, you won't want to miss the full show.
We also met acoustic guitar maker Tom Foreman. He's like many of the artisans we meet that have a hobby gone wild. He started with repairing and plunking around on stringed instruments, but once his talent for fixing them was realized, he moved on to the challenge of building them. Now he makes beautiful handmade guitars at his home in Stewardson.
We also visited Fat Tire Bikes in Kansas, Illinois. Gary Kaplan has found a way to motorize bicycles that look old, but they're actually new. You know, he likes them so much that his bike is his only mode of transportation, and now people are coming from all over to browse and buy his unique bicycles.
Finally, when it comes to talent, the Myers Dinner Theater in Hillsboro, Indiana is small but mighty. They managed to put on some really big shows with some really small casts, a practice that's made them a favorite place to catch a show for many. Not only are they famous for their good shows, they've got some pretty well-known cuisine too. I think the broccoli salad was probably my favorite. Everyone's greeted with a hug at Myers, and they really make you feel more like family than a guest.
We're central of Terre Haute, Indianapolis, Lafayette, Danville, Champaign, we have many large cities and that love to come in on buses and step back a little bit in rural community, and there's nothing like that. I spent a lot of time talking with the two couples that were at table 5, and he said, now I hope I say this right to you, but he said, the minute I opened that front door, I knew I was going to be in love with this place. And I said, really? Now, why is that? Because we hear that so many times. And he said, it just feels different in here. It's very comfortable and laid back, and that always makes me want to cry because, you know, we're busy running around and we miss that, but I am so glad that our guests feel that.
This season marks a special year for Heartland Highways as we celebrate our 100th episode.
We'll look back at the early years of the show, reminisce about favorite stories, and even catch up with former co-host Rachel Wyckoff.
Oh, that's going to be fun. Look for this special episode later in the season.
That just about covers the adventures for this season. Here's a preview of a few more that you won't want to miss. One final adventure for this season will be our location. We started in our studio and last year found a vintage candy store and restaurant. So when we were looking for something new, it was literally in our own backyard.
Starting next week, we'll be coming to you from different locations around the campus of Eastern Illinois University. Since this is our home base, we wanted to show you more of the campus that we call home.
We'll be coming to you from places like the beautiful Booth Library, historic Old Main, the newly constructed Down to Fine Arts Center, and other spots. So be sure to tune in each week to learn a little bit more about where we work and the buildings we visit most often here on campus.
So that's our season. Be sure to tune in each week for the full story, and don't miss the endings because backed by popular demand are the outtakes. So that's our season. Be sure to tune in each week for the full story, and don't miss the ending because backed by popular So that's our season.
Thanks for watching.
Let's do it again.
Heartland Highways is made possible in part by Consolidated Communications, offering customers high-speed internet, phone service, and digital TV service packages that include high-definition channels, DVR, and hundreds of sports, movies, and music channels. More information on these services available at consolidated.com.
It's your do-over.
It's a burrito. Burrito. Anyway. Pardon me.
Yes! Okay. The next farm in the show is on the front. Oh, heavens. 3, 2, 1. Sorry. No touching your hair when I'm counting down.